All right. Let's see. Let's see if we are live or not. There we go in here. Yep, we are live. Okay. It is Friday. Let's see, what is it? August 22nd, 2025 at 5:08 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Here we are in Fallout New Vegas. We're not going to be in Fallout New Vegas the entire time. I'm going to start out here and then we're going to jump over to YouTube to watch the Fallout Season 2 trailer. And at that point, we'll just go over all the little bits and pieces of stuff that are kind of in there. Just little things I saw and see if we can't see anything else new. Let's see. So I'm still working on the Cass lore video, also known as the Rose of Sharon Cassidy lore video. That one should be coming out next week. I was going to talk to y'all, though, about an idea that I had. I'm not sure whether or not I should do it. It feels like they are two topics that could be kind of intertwined into a single lore video, so... but along with that, I'm basically still planning on releasing the Mojave Outpost video next week. There's really not an enormous amount to Mojave Outpost, so I was thinking I could probably get that done in a day or two. But yeah, the Cass one is taking a little bit longer because I'm probably putting too much detail into the script, and that's specifically why I'm thinking about basically combining the Cass lore video with another lore video, specifically covering basically caravanning in general within the Mojave. So it would be covering both Cass and Cassidy Caravan, but along with that, the other caravans, specifically more so than anything else, the Crimson Caravan. So anyway, though, yeah, the Sergeant Kilborn there. So let's see, what else is going on? So yeah, if you missed it, the Fallout Season 2, what's it called? Trailer released on Tuesday. Hey, Daddy Dante, good morning to you. So again, we'll be going over that trailer a little bit later here. But along with that, let's see. I think that's most of the actual announcements. There's been a few other things that have been going on. Gamescom has been going on, specifically where we got... Basically, that launched at the same time as Gamescom is going on over in Germany. Unfortunately, so we did get some interesting news from Gamescom about Fallout 76 and that they're improving the camp system. So it's going to be a little bit easier to build. But that was basically it that I've seen in terms of stuff that interested me at the very least. I was really hoping for some Starfield news, and there was none. Like crickets across the board, and it's getting to be disappointing over there. Then along with that, there was a little bit of talk about Elder Scrolls Online. I don't have anything against Elder Scrolls Online. I basically started playing it right when the game launched. I was coming off of World of Warcraft, and I was just kind of honestly getting tired of MMOs at the time, so I didn't end up playing it that much. But yeah, it seems like it's actually one of the better MMOs out there. What else? I think that's most of what came out of Gamescom. Again, that I was paying attention to. There was more stuff about Doom: The Dark Ages, but I have not played much of the modern Doom games. I played the original Doom games back in the day, back in the 90s when I was a little kid and should not have been playing them. But no, I've not played much of the modern Doom games. But so yeah, that's basically the news that I saw at a Gamescom that was of interest to me. Improvements to the camp system in 76, and that was about it. I'm sure that, again, there was other stuff there, but from the schedule that I saw yesterday, somebody else posted it in the Starborn subreddit, and it was all stuff where it's like, and I get it, it's a convention, so it's not always going to be something that's interesting to people that aren't there, but it was like something about like basically building stuff with like I can't remember the exact thing that it was, like Legos or something. I can't remember. Anyway, regardless, again, Gamescom was a disappointment to me just because I was looking for something to come out on Starfield and there wasn't anything there. I'm also hopeful that there's going to be something about maybe a shadow drop for a Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas remaster sometime later this year, but I have no reason to believe that that's the case. That's just entirely my hopes and dreams. So we'll see. If you missed it earlier, I'm going to be covering Cass, the companion in Fallout New Vegas, who's currently hanging out right over here in this barracks over here, drinking herself to death. I'm going to be covering her, and then, as I was saying earlier, I'm considering covering caravanning in general in this video, simply because in covering the problems that Cass has encountered, there are problems that every caravan has encountered. So, getting new Elder Scrolls, yeah. No, I have heard nothing about any of them, and I will definitely say that like it has been my experience with most Bethesda games that I enjoy the side content far more than I enjoy the main quest. I will say that's not the case with Morrowind. Morrowind's main quest is pretty amazing, and actually Oblivion's is pretty damn good too. So let's see here. The mire near my house just got a Pokemon drop. Okay. Welcome to the stream, Lords Jukas. Hope you all are having a good week. And if you missed it earlier, I also was saying that we're going to take a look at the Fallout Season 2 trailer and just go over all the little bits and pieces of stuff there. So, but yeah, so again, video on CAS, potentially combining it to be a video on caravanning in general. We'll see. I was going to see what you all thought about that. But anyway, I think we've got enough people here at the moment. Why don't we go ahead and head over and watch the trailer real quick and go piece by piece on this thing and see what we see. So there it is. All right. So I probably will have to pause this repeatedly. I would hope that they're not going... Like, it's not like I'm making money on this, but I would hope that I don't get some sort of... no, Mr. Redroach, I have a family. It's like not like I'm monetizing the stream, but I would hope that they don't do some sort of copyright strike against my channel for watching their trailer. I will probably have to mute it because there is, I'm sure, copyrighted music in it. So let's go ahead and watch this. So we got them. We got Lucy here and the ghoul in the Mojave. Let's go ahead and play this. That's interesting looking ground there. I'm pretty sure that's computer generated, because just looking at the way the earth is cracked here, it doesn't look quite right. I got clay soil near me, and obviously it's not desert, but it doesn't look quite like that. And I also don't see them leaving any sort of footprints behind. Of course, the ground is pretty hard, but again, I think this is just... And it could well be... I know that they were shooting in the desert, so it could well be that's very real, and I'm just not experienced with that kind of environment. All right, so yeah, I can turn on closed captioning, though, so we can at least see this. There we go. So yeah, they're looking for someone here. Someone you love or someone you hate. That's a good question. Yeah, so again, we got the ghoul and Lucy having left Griffith Observatory, and they're on their way to... we're basically chasing Hank McClane. Hank McClane, the last we saw him at the end of the first video, is the first season, is heading towards New Vegas. Mr. House is the good version of Andrew Ryan. They're both versions of Howard Hughes, of course. So let's see here. Amazon Prime logo. So yeah, this reminds me a bit of those hills that you get in between what's it called, Nipton and Searchlight, but it could well be this is anywhere along that main ridge over there. Las Vegas 50 miles. I checked that. That is somewhere close to the Mojave Outpost, I think. Maybe a little bit further into California. I'm not going to look on my phone because I'm not going to be able to do it properly right now. But yeah, it's something like that. Isn't every... Well, you got billionaires, then you got Howard Hughes. And Howard Hughes is his own special kind of billionaire. So yeah, they do seem to be doing a little bit more of the Vault-Tec ending the world sort of a thing. So we'll have to see exactly what comes of that. My guess is still that it's going to be China in the end, but they could be leaning into the idea that Vault-Tec actually did it. Now, this is the first like really interesting shot because we get a look at the New Vegas skyline, and we get a look at this strange canyon here that was not here at the time of Fallout New Vegas. Now, there is a guy in the subreddit, or not subreddit, jeez, in the Discord. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, Nicky the Cat, who did actually some pretty good work looking at this stuff. And he was pointing out that there are, basically there's like a series of ditches kind of that kind of follows this general sort of pattern. But I think this is significantly deeper. My guess, and I could be entirely wrong here, is that either this is just something that's new and that they put in here just because it looked cool, or it could be something related to the divide. Like, it could entirely be something like the divide is spreading, and that's what this is all about here. But along with that, we got the highways going along here, the big electric lines that are coming in from the northwest, which I think would mean that Mount Charleston, I believe it's called, it would be up in this direction, but I could be wrong. We got the Lucky 38 right there, the other main casinos of the Strip. You can actually see the tops right there, and Gomorrah right there. So, Reddit brain, yeah. I got... whatever his name was, the Enclave dog. It's been a little while, so I can't remember the exact code name for it. I do love that we get to see a nighttime view of pre-war Vegas here. So we got, again, Gamora, the tops, and then we've got a few other casinos here that we can't really make out the names of, but it is good to see that they put them in there, that they didn't just go along with it being the three that are remaining. And I don't even see the Ultralux on here. I think that's it right there, but you can't see the actual sign for it. So Lucky 38 looks great. And they got an excellent screenshot of this where you can see the Lucky 38 sign in the window there. This looks to me like Lucy has been like knocked out and has woken up inside this setting here. I would not be surprised if this is inside the Lucky 38. We got a Giddy Up Buttercup right there, box of sugar bombs. What else we got here? Obviously, radio, telephone. A typical yellow lamp like you can actually build with the camp system. Looks like they got our address here. So my guess is there's going to be some sort of like formal setting thing. We got Victor. So this is also a very interesting thing here. We've got NCR signs back here. So this is very interesting. And we got Vegas Vic right here. Or Victor. The Securitron that basically helps you get to Vegas. So yeah, then this shot of the, what's it called, penthouse of the Lucky 38. You can see it to the tops and Gamora right there. And along with that, you've got this screen here that we saw in the games. And there's House. They changed the actor for House. I think they did a pretty good job. He looks and sounds appropriate. And then we go to for the first airship we're going to see. Docking with the Vertibird. And people have pointed out it's small, but Area 51 on both of these hangars. So for some reason the Brotherhood of Steel has gone to Area 51. You've also got these wind generators out here. Now, it's difficult to tell whether or not there's been anybody living here, but my guess would be yes. Specifically from the fact that, again, the wind generators are there. I don't think those are something that's there in real life, although... And wind generators in the Fallout universe, we've seen in actually Fallout New Vegas itself, that the wind generators are quite primitive. We can actually look at those here in a minute when we go back to Fallout New Vegas. But yeah, so this is Area 51. Looks like the Brotherhood potentially has had a presence here for a while, because you got the vertibirds down there. And the fact that there are sand dunes around it, but they have not swallowed the base, also seems to me to be indication that there's something here. Now, or a presence here of the Brotherhood of Steel. It does lead to the question of why Area 51, and the obvious thing that we see with Area 51 in any case is always aliens. Now, there are aliens that are canonical beings within the Fallout universe called Zetans, so we'll see exactly if there's anything related to that there. We go here back to Maximus, and we get the first look at Caesar's Legion being around. So again, we saw Victor before. Now here we're seeing the Legion. Now Victor is a sign of House being present, because basically it's when you end up destroying House's systems that Victor disappears. Now along with that, you've also got, again, Caesar's Legion troops, though, which would indicate either that the Legion won or that the Legion is back. And people have analyzed this image here, and some people are saying, and I would say from the images of the ears I've seen as well, this looks like it may well be Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin is supposed to be playing a role within this second season of the Fallout TV show. Now, I think it would be incredibly interesting, and this was my own little pet theory that I put forward, that Macaulay Culkin is playing the courier turned new Caesar, but we'll see exactly what comes of that. But again, yeah, we see Caesar's Legion. I did see someone the other day that tried to say that this was basically a pre-New Vegas image here, but at the same time, again, literally right here, we've got Lucy walking along with a legionary. So we know Caesar's Legion is around at the time, so there's no reason to assume that this is not something that's happening concurrently right here. So at first I was basically looking at just the armor of this person here who seems to be the leader, and I was a little annoyed because the stuff looks too good. Effectively, it looks like it was something that was actually made for him. But then I realized, yeah, when you see the other characters, they do still wear like the football pads and stuff like that. So if there aren't Cazadors and Deathclaws every few steps, we'll have another season. Episode 8 Revolt, or what? A season 8 Revolt. Yeah. We do see a Deathclaw at the end, but yeah, we have not seen any Cazadors yet, as far as I can tell. But anyway, let's go ahead and keep playing here. Okay, so we've got Novak. And I will say they changed the layout of Novak, and I think they actually did a better job with it this time. But we'll see more here in just a minute. But basically, the general thing here is that there's now a pool for the hotel at Novak, and then along with that, the motel in Novak, and the sign points back towards the motel. Now, I can see it being either way, to where this, because like it does make some sense for it to be an advertising thing where it's pointed out towards the highway, and that actually would make a good amount of sense. But I do still like it in this orientation as well. So I don't think it. So I will say this: it's definitely not the canonical way that it's set up, but at the same time, I don't think it's the end of the world. So yeah, we've got the ghoul here killing somebody there. We got the pre-war view here of Vault-Tec Office with Barb. And then we got Cooper and his daughter looking at this sign here with this same image that he took the first or second episode. I can't remember. Second episode, I think. Yeah, second. With a vertibird flying by overhead. Which, it was my understanding that vertibirds were, at least for a long time in Fallout canon, quite rare before the war. But yes, welcome to the Stream Night Spearhead. And we're looking at the at this. I will say that my initial reaction to this season is to this trailer has been a mix of excitement and a little bit of worry that they're going to mess up something related to Fallout New Vegas. But we'll look more into this here. Again, I thought vertibirds, though, were a bit more rare pre-war, but they seem to have been getting more and more common as time has gone by. I mean, obviously, there were a lot of them in Fallout 4, but anyway, let's keep going here. So yeah, we got Cooper Howard in the Lucky 38 Casino riding a bomb that's supposed to be like a one of those electronic bowls you can ride. And I do think this is going to be some sort of foreshadowing here, where he says, I think you're actually quite a violent man. You just don't want to kill me yet. And I would not be at all surprised to find out that House is still alive and that Cooper Howard ends up killing him, basically just as a continuation of this line right here. Yeah, no, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what they have as the canonical outcome to the game. Because at the end of the day, it does seem like House is still around, because again, Victor is still around. It seems like the Legion is still around, because we've seen Legionaries. So it's going to be very interesting, and that's just up to this point. People have also been showing off images from Gamescom, I believe it was, where they had Yes Man. So again, that's a third ending. And again, we also have seen a little bit of New California Republic stuff as well. So I think Fallout New Vegas Disciples fanatics need to simmer down and give the season a fair chance. No, 100%. December 17th, I believe. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on in this scene. So we've got members of the Brotherhood. That looks like it's actually Maximus right there. We got the armor there that's damaged on the front, or at the very least, this is the armor that Maximus is wearing. I believe that they'll have made him into a knight, but we'll have to wait and see. So he's firing here, but I can't tell who these guys are supposed to be. It looks like they could be Republic. Wouldn't Legion have Legate in charge if House is alive? Yeah, I don't know, because at the end of the day, the Legion didn't just exist right on the border of the Mojave. They had all of Arizona, so we'll have to see exactly what happens there. And it could well be, again, there's no reason to assume that the character that looks like Caesar, we are currently at 142. We'll come back to 142. Where is it? Yeah. So this looks to me to be the leader here, because we've got the whole golden laurel thing going around the head here. There's no reason to assume at any rate that this is Caesar. What's his name? Edward Sallow. So it's entirely the case that this could be the legate, and as I said before, it could even be the case that this is actually the courier, and it's played by Macaulay Culkin. I think that would be pretty funny. I forgot what time I said, so okay, I think we're right about here. Yeah, okay. So yeah, then we have Hank, who has arrived at whatever this is. This is crazy to me. Like, this base right here is something that amazes me, because we've got, this is clearly underground. Can see the lights on the ceiling up above it. Along with that, it's obviously Vault-Tec. It seems to be their main command structure here. They also released some screenshots where you can see him wearing like a gray suit, and you can see his power armor in the background, and he's playing around on his Pip-Boy. A lot of people would assume that the death of Caesar would cause the collapse of the Legion, but no one really knows. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We don't really know that much about exactly what's going on with the rest of the Legion back in Arizona. Now, at the front, a lot of them did seem to have kind of a cult of personality around Caesar, but that could well be that that's just the soldiers that are with him. It could be that there's more of a governmental structure back in Arizona that actually does actual governmental work. Yeah. Be great if the show would just crash just once and come back. So yeah, then we got Maximus, and people have been saying this is Maxon, like Arthur Maxon, but I can't imagine that that's Arthur. It doesn't really look like Arthur Maxon to me. I mean, there's no, like, the scar. And then Nikki the cat on the Discord, I believe it was him who said this the other day. Just checking to be 100%. Am I looking at the wrong thing here? Yes, I am. Sorry, 1 second. I think he was the one who said it. I don't know. It's in here somewhere. We're saying first canonical fist bump in the Fallout universe right here. No, yeah. 100%. It's not just like when the emperors were at war, they had people back behind them holding down the home front. So now we get footage that's in Alaska. This looks to me to be, and we'll see here in just a minute why I'm saying that exactly, along with obviously there being snow. I think we got a pipeline running along through there. So this is basically the Alaska front during the Sino-American War. And you can see right here, Cooper Howard wearing T-45 power armor. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a flashback to his time serving on the Alaskan front. So, interesting stuff there. I still am annoyed by this whole faceplate opening thing. Like, the idea of trying to seal this against, like, poison gas, when it's, like, so easy for this to get damaged or to get, like, a little bit of sand in there or something like that. This is such a massive hole to open in the armor. But anyway, let's keep on going here. This is an interesting little segment right here where you can see, I think it's the ghoul grabbing this grenade right here. And then using it maybe right here. Again, this is the motel in Novak. You can see Lucy up there inside Dinky the Dino looking down on the scene. And you've got, again, the ghoul here throwing someone into this pool. Makes the power armor so useless. Yeah. No, and again, the power armor up in the lore up until the Fallout TV show was basically a walking tank. Something to where it's like you would not want to encounter someone wearing that stuff. The TV show definitely made it weaker with the whole thing where you could fire basically a single bullet into the right spot and it would kill whoever was inside the armor. But yeah. Okay, so that is some gore right there. I mean, my God. Tipping his hat to her. I love that. Ain't over yet. Oh, yeah. And this is who people who did not watch the first season or maybe watch it a single time were like, oh, that's Macaulay Culkin. No, this is not Macaulay Culkin. This was a character in the first season. He was the snake oil salesman. Some people had a little bit more of a crude name for him because of his propensity to spend time with chickens. But yeah, this is not Macaulay Culkin. Although I will say I don't know how they're going to integrate him into the story because they, again, have left to New Vegas. Now, obviously, Maximus is not in New Vegas. And Thaddeus, who is in my view, turning into a super mutant is not New Vegas. So it could well be that Thaddeus and the snake oil salesman have some sort of interaction. We'll have to see. But again, yeah, he's like, oh, let's get lucky. Then we got the ghoul falling out of the Atomic Wrangler casino. Maybe thrown out of the window by Fisto. You never know. And then we have this scene right here, which is just... I'm going to need an explanation. Because this is like massively lore breaking right here. Now, obviously, this is some sort of civil war going on within the Brotherhood of Steel. I don't know how else to justify what we're seeing right here, where we can see airships fighting each other. But at the same time, these are all effectively clones of the Prydwen. And how? When the Prydwen took proprietary materials that they had to scavenge from the Enclave crawler base at Adams Air Force Base. Like how how did they get at least 4 of them? How does that happen? I'm going to need some explanation. Now, this scene is also interesting because, first of all, you can see people being attacked by radroaches. I mean, that's the very first thing that jumps off the screen at you here. And it shows how radroaches are actually a terrifying enemy. I mean, the last time we really saw them being a terrifying enemy was in the opening moments of Fallout 3 within, cloning technology for airships. The last time we saw radroaches actually being dangerous was in the opening hours of Fallout 3 when they are nearly killing the people of Vault 101. But you can see the way they attack in this is actually terrifying. But along with that, you can see that these are members of Vault 31, which means these are former Vault-Tec executives, or junior executives, who have been put in stasis. They're buds. But where this is another question. This is maybe there's some other entrance to Vault 31 that we haven't seen. Yeah, radroach is having lunch. This is maybe some entrance to Vault 31 that we haven't seen, because this looks like an office building, so... we'll have to see exactly what's going on there. I'll back it up real quick so we can watch that scene just by itself again. Because, again, they actually do show the radroaches being quite terrifying on the attack. Okay. It was only like a second, but still. Maybe Hank's kid escapes and tells everyone. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Let's see here. Okay. So then this next scene right here, it looks like this strip is not safe right now because they're literally right out in front of Gamorra. It seems that the gate in front of the strip is no longer there. There's fighting going on in the streets. You can see the Gamorra sign is no longer fully lit up here. And then we're going to see some more stuff here in just a second. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, there. Oh, man, that was like less than a second. Securitron firing upon a person in power armor. So this looks like... this could be that same, from that same scene earlier where we saw Maximus attacking somebody wearing what looked like some form of uniform. If I can find it. It's not terribly easy using this little tiny window that doesn't actually always populate exactly what's going on right at that second. Anyway, wasn't it said though that the gates were? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. That's the way that a lot of Bethesda games used to work. Like, I don't know how many of you all have seen the concept art for what the city of Leyawiin was supposed to look like in Oblivion, but it looks so much better than the city of Leyawiin ended up being. And the city of Leyawiin is not even an ugly city. Bravil is an ugly city, but Leyawiin would have been beautiful if it hadn't been locked away inside that gate the way it was. But anyway, so let's play here for a second. Again, looks like Brotherhood of Steel fighting Securitrons. Then we got some sort of party taking place in Vault 33. Then we got a rad scorpion. Oh man, look at that thing. They really are just hitting you with image after image as quickly as they can right here. Again, some sort of party it looks like. Then again, rad scorpion. Oh. It looks like there's maybe a little rad scorpion inside of its claws. Okay, then we got Lucy shooting a king. I don't know if you all saw that. That was a king right there. Maybe a ghoul, people have said. These might be ghouls, but yeah. I could tell this first second I saw these guys that these are kings. Again, though, we got another entrance to the tops here, it looks like. using more of the beasts, absolutely. They do great work with the beasts. Like, okay, so obviously the Gulpers in the Fallout TV show have a different origin entirely than the Gulpers that you find on the East Coast, but they're still Gulpers and they look great. Like, they were truly terrifying looking. And what we've seen so far looks good as well. The Rad Roaches, the Rad Scorpion looks great. We're going to see a Deathclaw at the very end. But anyway, again, killing kings. And we got the homage to the intro video, because we got the New Vegas sign right there in the background, and she's firing just like the New California Republic Ranger is at the Fiend. Looks like a hollow point bullet, so anti-personnel round. There we go. Deathclaw. Look at the way the claws puncture the roof without it even trying. Like, it's literally just in the process of walking and the amount of force that comes off of the claws. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't played the game and you've never seen a Deathclaw before, you're like, what is that? And seriously, this thing looks terrifying. Obviously, we only get this one close-up shot right on the face, but... yeah, then they run. And again, you can see that they're, looks like they're on the strip right here. That looks like the Lucky 38 right there. So it seems like the strip is no longer a safe place. Maybe there's a part deeper into the strip that is still safe. We'll see. But yeah, that's it. So again, that's what the stuff that I saw. I don't know if you all saw anything there that I missed, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of what you get to see here. This especially, I want to know what is happening with this place. Like, what is the exact reason that they decided to build a multi-story building underground? Like, they dug out this enormous area, then built this large structure within the hole. It's interesting. Anyway, all right. So we'll go back to Fallout New Vegas. Again, like I was saying earlier, I'm still working on the cast video, but I was going to see what you all thought of this. I'm trying to decide whether or not to combine the cast video with a video on caravanning in general within Fallout New Vegas. Let's see here. The Fallout 4 gave you false confidence against the Deathclaws when you first played New Vegas. Yeah. No, 100%. And it was definitely strange the way that they did it with Fallout 4, to where you immediately get access to power armor and a minigun in order to fight a Deathclaw. And Deathclaws are still dangerous in Fallout 4, especially at a low level. But nothing compared to the Deathclaws in Fallout New Vegas. But okay, so again, I was going to see what you all thought about this. Okay, so in covering Cass, part of the thing I have to talk about with Cass is basically the situation that she was having to get herself into in running a caravan into the Mojave. And that's an issue that's basically, those are issues that are shared by all of the people who are running caravans into the Mojave. So I mentioned before that one of the original plans for Fallout was for humanity to try to escape space. Yes. Was that Tim Kane's original idea there? It was something that never actually got implemented, and it is a thought that could be something that they try to pick back up on. Could be a reason why there's stuff going on with Area 51. Which, if you're unaware of what Area 51 is, basically the popular culture version of what Area 51 is that it's the spot where the United States government took the alien spacecraft they got from that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, and that's where they keep it, is at Area 51, and they do experimentations with alien technology and stuff like that. But the official statement on what Area 51 is, when they do talk about it, is that it's simply just a place where they test basically the newest aircraft. And so I could see them going either way with the Fallout TV show, to where it could be something where it is legitimately like that's where they've got Zayton spacecraft and stuff like that. Or it could even be the case that the reason that it's in the show is because maybe that's where the spaceship is that the Enclave or Vault-Tec were building, that they were planning on using the Societal Preservation program, the data from it, to guide space travel to other distant colonies and stuff like that. So I feel like it should be both in the game. Yeah, it entirely could be the case. But anyway, so again, I was going to ask you all what you all thought I should do about the Cass video. If I should simply talk about Cass and basically talk about the same stuff again when I come back to cover the Crimson Caravan or something like that in the future, or combine it to where I talk about caravanning and basically do a large focus on CAS, but also talk about everything else. I'm kind of leaning towards doing both, but at the same time, I know that it might not be the case that you want to hear me talk about the exact same thing in multiple videos. Now, obviously, when I've had to talk about some of the stuff with New Vegas, I've had to mention some specific events in multiple times. Like the reason why it is that there's so much traffic going by Novac is the same reason that, I have to talk about the reason that there's not much traffic going past Goodsprings. Combine them? Okay. Because basically, just going over like a very, very condensed version of what it is that I have to talk about, it's that the passage through the divide has been destroyed. And so because of that, you basically have people going up I-15. Well, at the same time, then I-15 gets blocked, obviously because you've got the events that take place at the NCRCF. And when I talk about the NCRCF, I have to talk about the fact that they were attempting to rebuild the railroad network in order to try to carry the supplies in a more efficient manner. And then along with that, I have to talk about why General Lee Oliver was pulling troops away from the NCRCF to go work at the front. And then along with that, I have to talk about the fact that then the NCRCF fell. And after that, it caused the failure of the quarry in Sloan because they took all the explosives. And the failure of the quarry in Sloan led to the rise of Deathclaws covering this entire section of the map right here. Which again leads to there being no way for the caravans to pass through here. So when I talk about Cassidy Caravan, I have to talk about the fact that why it is that the land was so dangerous for them to have to send the convoy into. Like, not only were there local threats in the form of things like the Great Khans and stuff like, and the local gangs of Vegas like the Fiends and stuff like that, but then you also have the fact that the main route, the fastest route, the route that was forged originally by the Courier through the Death Valley, was destroyed inadvertently by the Courier. And I don't talk about that in the video itself, because I'm kind of trying to basically feed into the story over time. But yeah, eventually, effectively, this area is destroyed. They have to go through this way. Then they can no longer even go through this way, which means they have to pass through this way, which this way is also getting more dangerous because of the Legion forces at Cottonwood Cove that has spread out across the southern Mojave to destroy Searchlight, raid caravans, take slaves. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's, again, in order to talk about caravanning and CAS caravans and the situation that she found herself dealing with, I have to talk about all this kind of backstory. Again, some of which I've talked about already before, some of which I have not talked about specifically related to New Vegas. Because, for example, I'm going to be talking about basically just the general way that caravanning works in the Fallout universe. Because the way that things worked in the old world was people used to send things on trucks, trains, boats, and planes. And when the world ended, that all went away. But there even were a few truck companies. At the very least, we know of one. The Blue Ridge Caravan Company was originally a trucking company that's picked up using Brahmin. So I then also talk about the fact that Brahmin were born from from cows that were unmutated in the years shortly following the bombs. The first Brahmin were born basically in the first year after the bombs. For whatever reason, cows no longer gave birth to cows. Cows started giving birth to Brahmin, which, gotta wonder exactly like how the two-headed thing works with births every time. But regardless, then talk about how the caravans, yeah, it's not even 1800s because in the 1800s they had carts. So we're going back even further. We're going to pack animal caravans. We're talking Silk Road type stuff. Because at the end of the day, the roads were too damaged to run carts on even. So, blame the Enclave. Yeah, to an extent. I mean, anybody that had a part in the creation of the Sino-American War absolutely played a part in the destruction that led to the need to use Brahmin pack caravans. But basically talk about how the caravans effectively were a big part of why the NCR was able to come into being in the way it was. Like talk about how you went from needing transports for large amounts of consumer goods to needing to simply be able to carry... Watch out! Who are y'all fighting? Alright. Need to go from being able to carry large amounts of consumer goods to being able to carry like some scavenged goods, some farmed goods, and water. Basically, those were your three things that you were carrying on the backs of these Brahmin. And you had to basically have something that could go on extremely rough roads, over new mountain passes and things like that. Yeah, classic New Vegas, exactly. No idea what caused that, but they were very anxious to get going right there. Basically, yeah, talk about that and how eventually you get these big baggage trains that are heavily laden with cargo, which means they come under attack by raiders, which means that you've got to have caravan guards. But then effectively what you start ending up with is like basically safe routes. And over time, you get these little tiny communities that only produce one thing that are linked up together, and they start trading with each other. And you've actually got like a working group of communities coming together. And effectively, through that and through combined efforts of these communities, you start getting things like New California Republic. So the caravans were largely responsible for the emergence of the civilization that became the New California Republic. And when you actually talk to Alice McLafferty up at the Crimson Caravan Company up here, people say, how did the NCR collapse? Yeah, the NCR had a lot of issues, I'll say that. But if we come in here, we can actually talk to Alice McLafferty. And I also need to mention that, in the video that Ringo's in here somewhere. I don't know where he's right now. So, right here, okay.
Welcome back.
Like to know more about the Crimson Caravan Company?
Certainly. What would you like to know?
How long have you been in business?
The Crimson Caravan Company has been in business for over 130 years. We're partially responsible for the progress in the NCR.
So yeah, that right there. How the world is in such a state. Well, okay, I'll back out of this real quick. Something to consider with basically any sort of setting is that, okay, so there are legitimate reasons for that, and then there's also just, if you're going to have the setting continue, there are certain things that have to maintain. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, so for example, like the Warhammer 40k universe. It's like it's kind of destructive to the universe if suddenly the Emperor of Man suddenly gets up off his throne and starts laying waste to stuff. Like, obviously that's going to do some pretty big damage to the overall setting of the universe, you know? It's the same kind of thing here where it's like, if anything improves too dramatically, can you still call it the Fallout universe? You know, and it's one of those things where it's hard to tell exactly where the line is. Because, for example, if we were to play a game that's actually set in California at this time, I don't know how much it would feel like an actual Fallout game. Because at the end of the day, it seems like, okay, for example, there are trains that they're planning to run out here, which implies to me that there are trains that are running within New Vegas, or sorry, within New California. Because I don't know why else they'd be attempting to run trains up into Vegas if they didn't already have trains running throughout California. Now, along with that, if we come in here to Camp McCarran, you can see that they've got these military trucks here. Now, my understanding is that these trucks actually do function canonically. Like, it's not something where you can never drive them because the engine doesn't support that kind of movement, but I do believe that these trucks are actually here because they were involved in moving trucks and supplies up here. Yeah, I do hope we also see Fallout, an operating train in the Fallout universe at some point. But again, if you get what I'm saying here, New California, like Alice McLafferty wears a suit into the office here because that's what she normally wears into the office in the hub. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, New California, it has its issues, absolutely, but it's much more like the old world than you find out here in New Vegas, and definitely far more like the old world than you find in places like the Capital Wasteland and Fallout 3. So the question is, if the situation in the world were to improve so much, would you still be able to call it a Fallout game? And I don't know if you could or not, because there are certain aspects to the Fallout games that feel like they have to be existing across the world, where it's got to be the case that, things are kind of in shambles. That's kind of got to be the way that it is. But along with that, there are obviously issues that the people run into that make sense, canonically speaking, that would be canonical to the universe rather than just being something that's there because that has to be there for the game to continue being a Fallout game. Which is that, like the New California Republic, it takes it a while to get going. I'm invulnerable right now because my character's carrying too much and I don't want to have to go put things down, so that's why my ammo is not dropping here. There we go. But, okay. So we can talk a little bit about the NCR and the reason that it's not actually doing too well and why it collapsing without even the nukes happening in the Fallout TV show would not be a terribly crazy thing to consider. I would say that without the intervention of the Courier on their behalf, that their efforts in California would have been effectively a disaster. If you go right into what it is that everything that the Courier ends up doing for them, there are some things that they would have taken care of regardless. For example, the NCRCF, you can absolutely take part in reclaiming the prison for the NCR, but they were already planning on doing that. They were already massing the forces for it. But at the end of the day, if you come out against them, then it effectively would have ended their efforts to retake the NCRCF. But let's just go over the general scope of things here. Again, reclaiming the NCRCF. Courier had a part in that. Prim was basically in tatters because of the escaped prisoners from the NCRCF. Issues at the Mojave Outpost, where they cannot keep the roads clear because they have officers there that are keeping all these soldiers in reserve, but because of the issues on the road, they can't send caravans out, but they can't send soldiers out because they have to keep the soldiers in reserve, but they can't keep the roads clear because they can't send the soldiers out. So it's like this kind of like cyclical issue here to where it's like they can't move things out because there are things out there, but they can't do anything about the things that are out there because they can't move things out. In terms of how dirty things are and the basic the tech is, they're the knowledge. So yeah, again, there are just general issues that they're running into. So when you talk to, again, we'll come back to that here in just a minute. We'll talk a little bit more about why the NCR was not in great shape at the time. They were highly overextended into the Mojave. They were using paper currency that was no longer backed by gold. Now, the non-canonical reason for that, but one that seems to be hinted at as being potentially the case, because there again, as far as I can tell, it's no longer gold-backed. It was gold-backed originally. It's no longer gold-backed. And the reason non-canonically that it's no longer gold-backed is because the Brotherhood of Steel and the war between the Brotherhood of Steel and the NCR ended up actually irradiating the gold supply, basically pulling a gold finger, not gold finger. Yeah, it is Goldfinger. Sorry, I couldn't remember if it was Goldfinger or Goldmember. A Goldfinger from the Bond franchise where he made the gold unusable, or that was his goal, to increase the value of his own gold. But basically, the Brotherhood of Steel pulled that off and made it so that the NCR could no longer keep their cash gold-backed. So again, they have fiat currency that does not have confidence. Again, their soldiers are overextended here in the Mojave. Along with that, they have dried up the entirety of their lakes back home. So one of the reasons that they had to come to the Mojave to get the Hoover Dam was to get the water and the power. And the water was a big part of that because, again, they had drained the local lakes. Now, along with that, they had the issue where the locals had issues buying land because all the land was being bought up by Brahmin barons. So these are guys that are buying up land to feed their Brahmin in order to produce meat and also obviously to produce pack caravans and stuff like that. And effectively you had actual home ownership dropping to lower and lower and lower levels. And there's this whole thing where in like democratic societies, when people no longer own land and stuff like that, when they don't have a buy-in to the society and the civilization, they don't have as much of a reason to go throw their lives away fighting against some cause in a far-off distant land. But again, what do they get out of this at the end of the day? If they're no longer any part of the franchise, when effectively things work whether or not they're involved, or don't work whether or not they're involved, it's a question of why get involved in the first place when you could end up just getting yourself killed. Is this another fiend over here? It's obviously an issue that has been dealt with many times in the real world as well. It's something that you can see happening in the U.S. right now. I heard a lot of people in Britain have issues with this as well right now. Basically, young people have a real hard time buying their first home. There was an issue with the Roman Empire when the soldiers came back from the front, basically doing their work to conquer, and they brought back a bunch of slaves, and then suddenly the wealthy landowners have all the labor they need. They don't need any more help. The soldiers who come back find that they're basically are competing against outsized farms that are worked with slave labor, and they can no longer operate these farms themselves at any sort of profit, so they effectively have to go and live in the cities. And again, they lose any sort of part of the whole experience of being a Roman citizen that came with owning your land and being a farmer and stuff like that. So again, it's stuff that has happened in the real world, and it's something that is happening within the Fallout universe. That's what the NCR was dealing with. There's a whole bunch of other issues. Dr. Holdren, I believe, was talks a little bit about it as well at the I can't remember the name of his division within Camp McCarran, but basically the NCR is going to effectively run out of food within a few years as well. So because they're basically they're having crop failures, I believe, and they're also just not growing enough to begin with, and so yeah, it's one of those things where, generally speaking, across the board, there were all kinds of issues that would have caused the collapse of the NCR, regardless of whether or not they were bombed by Vault-Tec, which they seem to have been, according to the Fallout TV show. So, but yeah, going back here, in terms of how dirty things are and how basic the tech is. So, I think some of that is effectively the way it is for the purposes of storytelling. And I'm going to give you a very specific example here. So, in a lot of the Fallout games, you can find a whole bunch of skeletons all over the place, especially in places where people are living. And these skeletons are set up in such a way to effectively tell a story of what was happening here before the bombs. But at the end of the day, it's like, why would these people continue living with these skeletons in their midst? And it's this whole thing where it's like, in order to tell the story of what this place was like before the bombs, they had to leave the skeletons in, even if that would make no sense for the people living there now. And along with that, there's also skeletons in places where it just doesn't make any sense because, like, there's not anywhere near enough damage around them to justify the dead bodies, where it's like, what caused this death exactly? I get what you're trying to say here with this having been someone who was here before the war, but how did they die? Why did they die right here? You know? So yeah. But again, if we're talking about active war zones, like if you look at the Drumlin Diner just south of what's it called, Concord in Fallout 4, and I believe there's skeletons inside that diner, and it's just like, there's a mother and her son living there. You're telling me that in all the time that they were living there, they weren't going to try to clean that place up a little bit? And that's definitely the case with like all the little restaurants and inns and stuff like that you find in the Fallout universe, where they're dirty. And it's like, okay, how much of the time are you just sitting around doing literally nothing when you could have spent a little bit of time cleaning up your establishment? It's definitely strange. And it could be something where they do it thematically in order to make the setting feel more like the Fallout universe. Because absolutely you do notice it when you go into a place where it is not the case. Like when you go into the majority of the Enclave bunker beneath the White Spring. Like it's very clean, you know? And it's something where it's almost jarring how clean and like prim and proper everything is in that setting compared to everything else you find outside. So it does seem like some of it is probably there for the purposes of storytelling in that manner as well, to where they're trying to create as much of a contrast between the outside world and the stuff that's hidden in those areas as well. How the hell is metal not just rusted or rubber not disintegrated? Yeah, and so there's all kinds of issues with that kind of stuff. Like we're out here in the middle of the desert. The UV hitting these things would literally, they would 100% be bleached white by now. There would be nothing left. These things have been sitting out here in the desert for 200 years. There should be no color left to that in the slightest. And again, most things, I would say that metal has a little bit better chance out here in the desert because of how dry it is. But things like back in what's it called? Boston, back in the Capital Wasteland, all that kind of stuff, the metal should be more rusted than it is. So, the Enclave in New Vegas. Yeah. No, again, I think that's entirely the thing there, is that part of it is they're trying to emphasize the difference between the actually clean areas and the rest of the wasteland. But yeah. And so, in terms of everything being dirty and all that kind of stuff, I think some of it, too, is also the fact that it is not easy to restart industry once it's been lost. And you got to keep in mind that it's not the case in most places that immediately after the bombs, they were just about able to go about their business and get things going again. I can't remember the exact length of time, but it was decades after the bombs before you get to Fallout 1. And there's, like, again, there's all kinds of stuff that's lost in between the end of the war and then, because again, you go to Shady Sands. Okay, now you know this movie. You go to Shady Sands and they're like basically rediscovering agriculture. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, in a lot of cases, the people that would have survived would have been either completely rural or people that had access to shelters. And so the people that were completely rural would then, like, there's a chance that some of them would have done well, but my guess is that basically you would have roving bands of like angry mutants wandering the countryside, hunting down, like going farm but by farm, trying to get as much food as they could. And there probably were a lot of farmers that were killed off in that way, and you probably had a lot of knowledge of agriculture lost in the first few years right after the bombs. In terms of industrial production, there's very little of that outside of the industrial areas that kind of like did what they could to maintain it. For example, the Union in the pit is probably actually like a great source of knowledge of how to produce things industrially. But at the same time, we know that despite what we see in Fallout 76, that by the time of Fallout 3, the Union's just gone. Dang, I was hoping I could jump on that. Got a clip up there. We know that the Union is gone by the time of Fallout 3. The plants have all completely... Can I not walk on this at all? Is there no mesh there? That's disappointing if that's the case. There's no industrial production going on outside of basically scrapping old metal. Oh, that's disappointing. No mesh to that highway. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so again, industrial production is basically dead. Agriculture is basically dead. I would not be surprised if there's kind of a theme to the Fallout universe of extraction having been a thing, like over-extraction, to where if you look at, like this, it's supposed to be the case that, I think it's from the Fallout Bible, so it's not a canonical source, but the oil fields of Texas are supposed to have effectively run dry by like the 2050s, I believe. So I would not be surprised if in most places, most of the large-scale mines and stuff like that were effectively depleted by the end of the world. I feel like that's a theme that they played on in Fallout 4 as well. So effectively, what you're trying to do is restart industrial production using nothing but scavenged materials, which is not going to be something that's terribly easy to do. Especially again when you have no one with the real expertise to do it. Oh, well, thank you so much, Night Spearhead. My father had a series of books called Foxfire, and it was a series of books that's basically, it's almost intended to be something to where you use it to restart civilization in the aftermath of a serious disaster. And I've got actually some of the books, and it got interesting stuff in there, like how to build an iron puddling furnace. Basically, like digging a hole in the ground and building this thing and having it so you can drop iron ore into it and actually collect the puddled iron at the other side of it. It's like, but again, you think about everything that it took to create the world as it is today, and effectively, civilization is, in a way, a house of cards. And it's something that is only able to keep going because it keeps going. And so, if you get a serious disaster, which the end of the world via nuclear apocalypse is absolutely a serious disaster, it's very hard to put things back together again. It's something that I've thought about a lot, and it's something that he's even come up with this specific video, talking about caravanning. Because again, they don't go back just to like the 1800s. They go back to like the 1000s. They go back to the era when everything was simply pack animals to carry supplies. Because you look at everything that civilization is built up to, you think about going back to try to... Yeah, appreciate the lore pumped into your brain. Always helps remembering everything. Well, good. You go back to, like, back before the 1700s, we still really didn't know how to make steel. I mean, there's so much that civilization has learned slowly, incrementally over time that it would be completely lost if you lost an entire generation of the experts doing the thing. Because in a lot of cases, there's stuff that's not even written down. This is actually a serious problem that we're experiencing right now as boomers are retiring. And I'm even talking about people that are, in a lot of cases, well past retirement age at this point. They have not passed on institutional knowledge to the next generation on like how to produce things in foundries and stuff like that. The proper ways to do things like simple things like elevator maintenance. There are obviously textbooks on this kind of stuff, but a lot of it is stuff that's learned on the job, and a lot of it is basically something that the newest generation of people coming up in the world in these specific professions don't know how to do anymore. So it's entirely the case that something like the Fallout universe could happen to where it takes hundreds of years to return to the level of technology that we were at before. That's entirely why the Brotherhood of Steel exists, is in trying to basically nail down the technology that existed at the time. They're trying to basically collect the, like they say, the glowing embers of civilization before it fades out entirely. And at the end of the day, though, it's something where it's even a question of will they be able to do what they can to try to rebuild civilization. And the problem there too is, like, I don't know that they're actually even trying. It seems like their entire mandate has been to reclaim all the technology that they can, but it doesn't seem to be any sort of like actual end goal there of, yes, we're going to restart civilization at some point. It seems like the entire thing is we're collecting and cataloging technology. It's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? When are we going to make things better? How are we going to actually fix the world, right? At what point is that going to happen? And again, they simply will probably have the best chance of doing that sort of thing. Them and groups like the Institute and the Enclave, anybody that has institutional reach back to before the bombs. But even then, the Brotherhood of Steel, just because they have a toaster, doesn't mean that they're going to know exactly how that thing worked. It's kind of like a, what's it called? Adeptus Mechanicus sort of situation from the Warhammer 40k universe, where you've got all these like they're not really engineers. They're just they're trying to keep technology working with all kinds of different crazy like chants and prayers and putting these seals on stuff like that and all that kind of stuff. Because again, they don't, like, some of them know how technology works, but they don't know how all technology works. And in a lot of cases, they think that there's some sort of divine thing going on with it. And as far as I can tell, there is some weird divine stuff going on with some of the technology there. So it does not 100% translate to this kind of situation. But have we ever seen bread in Fallout? I think so. I think the place we would look for that is Fallout 76 more than anywhere else. Because I'm pretty sure you can make sandwiches. I'm not sure, though. I feel like there is bread in the Fallout universe. But again, I think it's been in the later ones. Because at the end of the day, like, we don't see even an analog to wheat until you get to Fallout 4. Now, obviously, Fallout 76 takes place earlier, but in terms of when the games were produced, Fallout 76 came after Fallout 4. But yeah, I'm again, I think there are sandwiches in 76. But you get razor grain. So you could potentially see cornbread in Fallout New Vegas. They got maize, which I think it's interesting they call it maize. So if you're unaware, and this is probably more so if you're an American than anyone else, what we call corn in America, most of the rest of the world calls maize, because corn is actually a general term used to refer to grain in general. So, I mean, it's sometimes I've heard people refer to it like as Indian corn, which is another way to refer to maize. Of course, we're talking Native Americans, not subcontinental Indians. But yeah. So again, they potentially could have made cornbread here in New Vegas. They've got corn growing here, but you don't really see wheat out here. At least we haven't. And again, it exists on the East Coast. We know that. Whether or not razor grain exists out here, we don't know. And of course, it's not like the case that you can only make bread out of corn or wheat. But I don't know about the rest of the corn. So, first time I heard. Yeah. Yeah, no. Again, it entirely comes from the fact that corn, up until basically Americans started calling maize corn, referred generally to all forms of grain. So at least that's my understanding. It could even be that it was referring to specific types of grain, where it's like maybe it's like large kernels or something like that is corn. But anyway, I don't know. But yeah, so that would be my guess as to in terms of bread. I am wondering how much, with what they build in Fallout 4 and 76, we're supposed to take as something that would have existed in Fallout 3 and in New Vegas. We just didn't see it, that kind of thing. Like razor grain exists in Fallout 4. Are we to assume that razor grain also existed within the Commonwealth? Or not the Commonwealth, the Capital Wasteland, we just never saw it? Is it just a gameplay thing to where it wasn't added in yet? But there's the wonderful sign right there. But yeah. So again, I think we're getting close to the end here. So if you have any comments or questions, anything you'd like to see in Fallout 4 in terms of a lore video, which I'll be covering next month. But if for a recap here, if you missed it earlier, I am working on a Cass lore video. Oh, there are landmines out there. I'm working on a video on Cass. The Rose of Sharon Cassidy. Oof. Good thing I've got God mode turned on, huh? Set off another mine back there. But I'm working on a video of the Rose of Sharon Cassidy, which I may make a video on the Rose of Sharon Cassidy and on caravanning / the Crimson Caravan in general within Fallout New Vegas. And then along with that, I'm going to make a video on the Mojave Outpost. So yeah, jumps on landmine, yes. Oh, Fallout New Vegas rework. They can add stuff like that. Yeah. No, and so that's the question though, because like, I would say like Oblivion and Skyrim, there's 200 years separating them in the lore, but like the connective tissue I think is stronger there than you see between, like it feels like, I'm trying to find the right words for this. It feels like more of the change between 3 and 4 and New Vegas and 4 and stuff like that was technological changes. They brought in id Software to work on the game because they wanted to improve the combat, and because id was doing great with FPSs at the time, it made a lot of sense. But like the weapon customization that exists in New Vegas, there's no reason that shouldn't exist in 3. I would definitely think that that's something that they should have. If they do remake Fallout 3, I would think that that's something that should be in there, is the weapon customization that we see in New Vegas. Because, like, honestly, the weapons in New Vegas are so much better than the weapons in 3. Just when you mod the hunting rifle to where you've got that scope on it versus the standard hunting rifle, it's such a better gun. And yeah, also, in terms of the things you're actually going to find in the world within New Vegas and in 3 or 4, like obviously there's even right down to Sunset Sarsaparilla existing out here in the West, versus in 4 we've got Vim, so it's like you've got even just different sodas and that kind of thing makes sense, right? But whether or not we'll see things like maize, and we've seen corn on both coasts, whether or not we'll see wheat on the West Coast is another question. We've never seen razor grain on the West Coast, so we'll have to see. But we have seen cherries now on the West Coast as well. I remember I was watching the first season of the Fallout TV show, and I saw the ghoul in the fight in the market in Philly put his hands into what looked like a bucket of cherry tomatoes and like basically start eating them and spitting. And at one point I saw him spit a cherry seed. And so for a minute I was thinking that there was cherry tomatoes in the Fallout universe that were legitimately a mutated crop that were a combination of cherries and tomatoes. But then I saw that it was actually a basket of cherry tomatoes and cherries. So actually, yeah, there's 100% both. But that's the first time we've seen cherries in the Fallout universe as far as I know, like new, freshly grown cherries. Man, there's a lot of landmines out here. There's actually a farm outside New Vegas. Yeah, there are all kinds of farms out here. I mean, specifically, obviously, there's the Sharecropper farm, there it is, which they're growing corn here. Some of these you can harvest from, some of them you can't. In fact, most of them you can't. Only see berries in 76. I think... Except for maybe tar berries, which I think they have in 4 as well. But yeah, when you go to like all the other berries that you can find, like, well, especially just right off the top of my head, firecracker berries being one of the things you can find in Fallout 76, but that's something else. So yeah. But let's see here. But yeah, any topic that anybody would like to see specifically covered in Fallout 4, I've not created the full list there. I do have some items that were not covered last time that I will put into the set of options for the poll, but if there's anything else that you'd like to see covered, let me know. Again, working on the video on Cass, working on the video on Mojave Outpost, which again I think will be a fairly short video. Some of the stuff actually is specifically related to Cass, but we'll see what's left after that. There's obviously the stuff related to Ranger Ghost, checking on the events in Nipton. There's also freeing the roads of giant ants in order to allow people to travel more freely between Mojave Outpost and other areas. But other than that, there's not an enormous amount. I will put in every interaction that the Mojave Outpost has. So even if it's like, oh, I stopped by there for this one quest to basically drop off this one item. Yeah, that'll be in the video. But again, I could have sworn I had harvested maize off of one of these before, but maybe I'm misremembering. Oh, is that? No, you can see some growing there, but I guess maybe I'm misremembering that. But anyway, though. All right, well, I think I'm going to close things out here. Again, thank you to Night Spearhead for that super chat. I will go ahead and get to work on the cast video this weekend and get you all that next week, along with the Mojave Outpost video. I'm going to give it a little bit more thought, but I think it wouldn't... I don't know. Because to one extent, I don't want to dilute the focus on Cass, but at the same time, again, so much of our interactions with Cass are tied in to the Crimson Caravan, so I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it. You'll find out next week. I'll figure it out this weekend, and again, you'll find out whenever the video releases. So I hope you all had a great week. It was great hanging out with y'all. I'm looking forward to seeing the Fallout Season 2 when that comes out, December 17th. But I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you all next Friday with hopefully 2 lore videos released. We'll see. But anyway, have a great weekend, y'all.